Okay, let's consider this done and let's move on to the high percussion. So if we think of our track as an architecture that has low frequencies, mid frequencies, and high frequencies, this represents sort of the low frequencies and the accompanying atmosphere around it. We're not going to do too much in the mids just yet. And then we're going to right now do the high percussion. And let's be honest, that just means hi-hats, really. Hi-hats, things like rides, maybe some crash cymbals. But we're not going to go too much into special effects right now. I want that rumble group to have an upbeat. I want to go boom, tss, boom, tss, boom, tss, right? So let's generate ourselves some hi-hats. And we're going to start probably from the 909 hi-hat, distort it a bit, frequency shift it a bit, and try to figure out how to make it kind of cut like a razor blade through a little bit of experimentation. And I want to do, 16th note rolling hi-hat. I want to do an upbeat open hi-hat, and I want to do a ride at least. That's going to be my starting ingredients. So without further ado, let's get into it. I want to do the upbeat hi-hat, and I tend to call that an up hat, okay? It's not the official name for it, but I know in my projects what the up hat means. And it's the hi-hat that sits here on the upbeat of every beat. So the up hat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 909 sample on there. We just go straight up to our 909s. I like the Gold Baby drum samples. Again, not affiliated. Nothing to do with them. I just bought that with my own money and I think they're nice. Let's go for this one. Okay, first of all, the release, let's put it to the maximum. I don't want the sampler at this point to be shaping the audio too much. Okay, not bad. I want to experiment with something someone showed me recently, which is to emphasize the transient of this using a compressor. And maybe let's use a glue compressor for it and get a fairly short attack here. Like just enough to let the transient through, which I guess technically that's quite a long attack. Enough to let the transient through. That's going to make it cut at the start, but then a pretty short release. And so there we go. We slam it down, really slam it. So here it's more sustained. Here it's a bit more attacky. Quite like that. Slam it down even more. Quite like that. Okay, I quite like that. Yeah, I think definitely compared to this is way too soft. Yeah, this is quite aggressive. I like that. Let's try some frequency shifting. Dark. Yeah, I kind of dig this. Now let's try saturating it before the compressor. Oh, it really doesn't like these values. Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now let's do some tonal balance. Look at this. Look at this for mad. We're gonna have to do something here. I actually want those low frequencies. I want it to be quite full-fledged. I don't want it to be like just ticking away in the highs. I want this thing to cut through the entire mix. It might be too much. Like later when we need to add more elements to this mix, it's gonna get too dense. So, but let's leave it too big right now. Oh, I like that. Let's leave it too big for now, and then later on when we need more elements to come in, we can carve space in this element, okay? So, let me just see what it sounds like with the other rumbles, okay? a bit too quiet. And this Atmo is way too loud. Isn't it? Yeah, this one. As you add more elements, you start to notice that the elements that you already put in are too loud because, you know, you were working on them, so you bring them up so you can listen very closely. But in the end, it's like overkill, and you just need to bring everything down a bit to make space for the elements that are going to come in, you know. Yeah, it's really way too loud. Now we might want this to pump with the volume as well. Let's do that shaper thing. Let's make the shaper and let's put a utility on there. And you know what? I'm going to make this an effect rack that I'm going to use all the time instead of LFO tool. That would actually be pretty cool. So what I'll do is I'll map this there. I'll set it to the standard LFO tool kind of, oh no, I keep adding and subtracting these points and I don't know how to do them. Anyway, let's use this as a kind of a shape. Let's not make it ultra deep. I don't want it ultra deep. And I just have to move that down. Yeah, so we get like what? Almost 10 decibels still of movement. Yeah, that's quite a lot. But it's about the right amount there. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool, no? So let's save this. Let's save this. Let's group it. Give it a name. And call this the LFO tool shaper. And I'm going to save this, and I have a little folder here called racks, which I call my mixing racks. I'm going to put that in there. Yeah, save it. Perfect. I'm going to leave it in there. And I'm also going to put it on this every project favorites folder. Cool. Now my question is, does this shaper have the right settings when I add it? So let's check that out. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Pretty reliable. Love it. So on this element, yeah, you see how that pumps a little bit? That's good. Now, it might be a bit too long, huh? Let's try it shorter. Yeah, that's a bit more. That's a bit more how I want it. I love that. Cool, let's give it an accompanying element, which is the 16th note hi-hat. So for the 16th note hi-hat, I'm gonna make 4 of them, and I'm gonna make them pump a little bit like this. So I put the velocities 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, so it's already gonna pump on the upbeat. I'm just gonna make the loop short so I don't have to copy paste that across, and then drag it out so it copies all across the timeline. I'm gonna call this the 16th note hi-hat. You can hear the ambulances in the background or the sirens, welcome to Brussels. And let me add a closed hi-hat on there. Yeah, let's take the short one. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? So. Okay, it's a bit too sharp. It's taking away attention from the main one that I don't want. So when it comes to high-end elements, when it comes to any elements, really, what you have to think about is, in its frequency range, is it competing with any other elements? Is it trying to play the same frequencies as other elements? If so, that's fine. You don't, that's okay. However, then you have to choose a hierarchy, a priority. If you say, okay, I want 3 hi-hats that are all playing fresh, open, high frequencies, then you've got to ask yourself the question, well, which one is going to dominate those frequencies, right? So when I'm thinking about the frequencies around 10K, I could push this thing up and it would sound soloed, it would sound better. It would sound fresher, opener, bigger. However, it will take away from the up hat. So I need to make a decision about this. I need to make a decision which element is going to dominate in the upper high frequencies. So look at what it sounds like this. Now it's clear that the up hat is dominating there. Now it's the 16th note hi-hat that's dominating there. But maybe it's kind of nice if I turn everything down. It's fresh. I feel like when I turn it off though, the up hat gets a bit boring. So I don't want that. I want the up hat to be exciting. So okay, let's just go for that. And maybe on this one, let's put a little bit of Haas effect. So Haas effect is just a delay preset, which you can copy from here if you want. But think about what it does. So first of all, the feedback is set to 0%. And that means that it is only doing one delay echo. It's not repeating the delay echo. I'm setting it to 100% wet, so it's only going to play that one echo. That one echo, I set it to 1 millisecond on the left, which is the minimum, and about 10 to 14 milliseconds on the right, which it means that the right ear is going to be slightly delayed compared to the left. And that's going to create a kind of a spatial separation between the two. I'm probably going to go for even less on the right. So let's check this out. I just have to hang over here because otherwise I'm not exactly in the right listening spot. Cool. Now this is spaced a little bit in stereo. I'm probably going to double check this later on headphones because that's really where you get the nuances of stereo are very obvious on headphones. And on studio monitors, they can be if you have the perfect listening position, but when I'm recording tutorials like this, the system here is a little bit asymmetrical, so I don't dare to assume that it's correct. But when I put on headphones, I'm going to assume that it's correct. But let's leave it at that, and let's put ourselves a ride cymbal as well. So, cymbal. And for the ride cymbal, what I'll do is I'll do an upbeat again. Actually, I'll just copy paste this right from the up hat. And on the ride cymbal, what I'll do is I will go to the drums, again the 909, grab myself a ride. Don't know which one's going to be best. So on the downbeat, I want it to play, but not so accentuated. And on the upbeat, I want it to be accentuated, right? Pretty cool. I just want this to be a splash of energy that adds some energy, not that dominates anything. That's cool. But this sound, it has some really harsh resonances. So let's just notch those out for a sec. Oh, it's so harsh. It's okay. I'm not notching out everything. Only when I feel like it's a bit, oof, there's still here a bit. Yeah, this is pretty heavy. And to compensate for what I just did on all of this, I'm going to just open it up a bit on the highs. I'm not sure. I might leave that. I did a video recently on this technique, and I know that the opinions were divided about doing this. I mean, this is only when you listen to a sound and you think it's going to sound fatiguing, when it's going to pierce your ears a bit too much. Let me show you what it sounds like with and without this thing on, right? Super whistling. Now it's a bit more tinny, a bit more hollow, but a bit easier to listen to from my point of view. Yeah, it's really, I think, this peak especially that gives that like particular notes to the sound. So anyway, I'll go back to -18, which is where I was approximately, and altogether. Not bad. Let me group this and call this the high percussion. I like to make this some kind of baby blue. Up. Not bad. And on the whole group, nah, let's not do anything just yet until we see in the mix what we need. I find the ride cymbal a bit fatiguing. maybe it should just be darker. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. I can turn it up. Yeah, it just fills things out, no? And these secondary ones, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Let me high pass it as well, just nice. Yeah, sculpted it to be kind of gelling all together. That works pretty nicely. On the group, I could imagine doing like some glue compression, maybe some saturation, probably not. Some equalization, probably yes. Tiny little bit of limiting at the end, maybe yes. But these are things that I think I prefer to revisit once I get a more detailed impression of what the entire track is going to look like all together, okay?